Hi, and welcome to this latest in our series of video tutorials introducing you to Python. And in this video we're going to look at an important programming concept called iteration, and you might have heard that referred to as loops or looping before. It means the same thing. But before we start to see how this works in Turtle, let's just run a very simple Python program that you can see here. And it's obvious what this program does. It simply counts to 10. And then I think we'll add one more line to it at the end just to tell us that it's finished. I know it's obvious, but you'll see why I'm doing this later. Finished. If I save that program and run it, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, finished. So nothing very difficult there, but it's just worth pointing out perhaps how inefficient that program is. I mean, we've used 10 lines of code and then an 11th to print that final line there. And it kind of makes you wonder, surely there should be a better way of doing that somehow, you would think. And of course there is a better way of doing that, and that's by using iteration. So we're going to write the same program now, and we're going to try and write the same program in 3 lines, not 11 lines. So we're going to get rid of everything except this line here. Okay, I'm going to keep that line, and then I'm going to use a new command called for. And for is something that we use when we're going to introduce, or we're going to use a loop. We're going to use iteration. And if we use a loop, is something we can use to repeat code a certain number of times. And to help us remember how many times we run our loop, we use a variable. So I'm actually going to call my variable loop. So for loop in range, and I'm going to go from 0 to 10. Now that's going to do something interesting when we do it, when we run it, but we'll see that shortly. So what basically is going to happen is that loop is going to run, and everything inside it, the code inside the loop, which we'll add now, will be repeated while the loop counts from here to here. So from 0 all the way up to 10. Actually it'll go to 9. We'll see that in a minute. So then I press enter, and you'll notice straight away that the cursor's indented. It hasn't gone here to the left, it's gone slightly indented, and that's because we're using a loop. It's saying, right, everything inside this loop, everything that you indent, is going to be run inside the loop. So I'm going to just put one command there, print loop, and that command will be run inside that loop. So it will occur until the loop's that line will run until the loop's finished. Sounds a bit confusing, doesn't it? But let's just save it and run it, and you'll see what it does. And it has done exactly what we said. It started at 0, and then it's actually stopped at 9, not 10. And the reason it does that is because when we use a loop, it will stop at the value before. So we can change that just to 11, like that. And then that will work. In fact, what I'll do is change it slightly, 10 loop plus 1. There we go, that will fix it. In 3 lines, which is what I said I would try and use, it's done the same program that we previously wrote in 11. So let's just look again at what's happened. This line here defines our loop, the parameters, how many times it's going to run, where it's going to start, where it's going to finish, and how many times that's going to take place. Then inside these indented lines here, or this one indented line, every line that's indented inside here will take place and be run inside that loop while it's running. And then because this line afterwards is against the left hand side, it doesn't take place inside the loop, it takes place afterwards. So in fact, let me prove that's happened. What happens when I indent that line as well? It writes finished 10 times, which isn't really what we want. We want that to take place after the loop. So you can see, hopefully, how efficient that code is now. We've used, as I said, 3 lines instead of 11. So if you're writing quite a big, complicated program, you can probably imagine how useful loops would be. So let's have a look and see how this might apply in Turtle graphics. So if we come over here, here's our Turtle program. It's a very simple program to draw a square. You've done a program like this before. Let's just run it to show you what it does. There we go. Draws a square. But again, we've got some inefficiency here. If you look here, we're repeating these lines 4 times. And we could surely put some of those lines inside a loop so that we don't have to write them out too many times. So what I'm going to do is put a line in here. I'm going to do a loop, and this time I'm going to call draw line in range, and this time I'm just going to put 4, okay, because I want it to run 4 times. That's the easiest way of actually doing this, okay, in range 4. And then because that loop's going to run 4 times, I want it to draw 4 lines. We'll move forward 100, 4, and then turn right, and I want that to take place 4 times. And because I want it to take place inside the loop, using the tab key, I indent my code. So let's just see what that does. If I stop it, save it, run it, and there you go, it's drawn the square. It's done exactly the same thing, but it's done it using fewer lines. So I've got a variable called drawLine here. It controls how many times our loop runs, and each time the loop runs, it runs the code inside that loop. So what you could do is have a go at using loops to create some programs of your own. See what other shapes in Turtle involve some repetition, for instance a triangle perhaps, and see if you can improve some of the programs you did earlier by making them more efficient so that they make use of loops. And we're going to look at what we can do even more with loops, something called nested loops, in our next video. So bye for now.